down a bit because he's loud as fuck.
That's standard.
We've got fucking Shuey in here, fucking, fucking producing and practicing producing. How do you feel about that, Shuey?
Furiously masturbating.
What about Steph? How are you feeling, man?
I'm worried about him with technology.
Let's go. There you go.
He's
Camera 1, camera 2. He's going to get there.
Exactly.
He's going to get there. Well, what I can do as well, if he stops doing it, I can just start switching it myself anyway, I believe. Because I just fucking switch it here. I can do it
It's
here.
probably smarter.
No, we'll give him a chance. We'll give him a chance. So if you start seeing him drop it, you got to go, Shuey, you ain't switching. And then I'm going to relinquish the controls off you. But I reckon you've got this. Do you think you got this, Shuey?
Yes.
I was very confident. All right, man.
So if I'm talking right now, he flicked it.
He's
I'm
flicked
impressed.
it. There you go. Just bring that mic a little bit closer to you, man. Yeah.
I'll move closer.
yeah,
Actually, it will be easier.
And just flick back to Steph. Make sure he's still in shot. Great. And you just want to keep it about a fist away, but you can hear yourself pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a loud voice.
I'm
Some
obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah. Some people got quiet voices, you know. He's doing good. He's getting there. Yeah. I reckon,
Look at him.
It's good technique.
Oh, wow. Hey, there we go.
Fast
If we
food.
talk at the same time, how does he deal with this?
He's got to pick which one is listening.
Off.
Well, you can't really talk at the same time. That's the interesting thing about podcasting.
That's actually probably the best part of actually having a conversation, right?
Man, it totally locks us in because now we have to keep the ball rolling. I've got to throw the ball to you, and you're gonna bounce that ball around, and then you're gonna go, shit, where am I going? And then I've got to get the ball off you, and then I've got to. Sometimes I've guessed that throw it straight back. I go, so what's your favourite colour? They'll go, red. Like, well, tell me about your favourite colour. You're like, I like red. Like, tell me more about your favourite colour. So yeah, it's all about throwing the ball around. It's a bit of an art.
And considering I've been doing like video conferencing for so long, like just with, the COVID and stuff like that, conveniently, it seems to be better in person because we over talk all the time, right? Because there's delays, stuff like that, essentially. But like right now that you don't get the delays with the mics, and I'm even personally watching your face to wait for you to respond to talk over the top of me, and then I shut up.
Yeah, that's it. We got that body language, yeah, and like we're literally beaming into each other's heads. Like there's no escaping my voice. I don't have to like raise my voice. I can get quite close and quiet, but I'm over here being like quiet. But
It's actually quite scary.
it's quite scary, isn't it? But we're locked in, man. We're totally locked in. That's what I like about it. I've learned so much on this show just because of that fact. You're number 143. I've had 143 guests, so I've done 143 Pagey trains that have been published, actually.
How many have you done without being published?
Probably 7 out there that haven't been published.
Probably for a good reason and legal.
Yeah. There's been some that we've definitely gone too far. Definitely too far, and what we were up to. Because, we were just in certain conditions at the time, and you're like, I'm just going to... do this podcast. Big shout out to my fallen brother Dave. I've got that podcast somewhere. One day I'll publish it, but I'm going to have to review it before I do so.
So that's actually the perfect thing that I can think of, is that essentially like you did a podcast with your mate and you remember it because it's as you understand the pub conversations just get overridden by loud and obnoxious people, but you get a one-on-one in this situation and you can... being relaxed.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the other thing with so it's like a pub conversation, right? So especially the Pagey train. On the Pagey train, we're on the drinks cart, on the Pagey train of thought. And when you're in a pub, it's like we've done this. Like that's how we met as friends in the pub, right? We're talking absolute shit, right?
Absolutely.
But every once in a while, someone comes up and interrupts you for a cigarette, or it's this, that, or the other, and you don't get that. It's always an interrupted sort of thing, so you sort of got to pick up where you last took off. But the weird one with podcasting is you go down a thread, you digress because you're on this main thread, then you go onto this other thread, and then you forget what the other thread was, and then you start forgetting about what you're talking about now, and then all of a sudden you drop, you're like, fuck, what was I talking about? I don't know.
But does also in the back of your mind knowing that you're actually talking like that, like also then throws you into that situation? It's like, well, like I can talk shit or actually be meaningful in a podcast. So essentially, shouldn't we all be in a podcast situation like this? And then it'll actually bring the best out of us?
That's an interesting way of looking at it, man, because there is this thing where with guests that I have guests that are more authentic than others. And I try to reach the guys that are trying to, I don't know if it's playing an act is the right way, because we all have an act, right? Like, this is my voice, this is what I sound like, this is what I dress like.
Well,
we all have the
it's
facade.
got an ego.
Yeah. We all have our ego, but I think there's a limit to that ego being authentic. There's the authentic ego, and then there's the ego that is just overly eager to impress. Like, I dress this way because I like it, but as well, I don't want to look shabby, but at the same time, I don't really care. So it's a bit of a paradox with the ego for me. But when you're talking to certain guests, they're like, they want to make sure they come across this certain way. And like, man, if you just answer the question honestly and just be your honest self, that's actually the cool thing. You're running away from what you're chasing, in a sense. So when I reach a guest that I have on a show and they just become themselves, I sometimes watch that transition happen. That's a bit of a buzz as well. Yeah. Ooh, who owns a case? That was Shuey. Was that Shuey?
Of course.
He doesn't want to answer.
And
It's my first day.
Jeez, man. He went to camera 3 there. He had a miss switch.
oh,
He's under pressure. He's feeling the pressure. But we all feel the pressure. Yeah.
Look. I've lived with the guy. I've known him since we were 18. The guy
Really?
in technology doesn't suit. Trust me.
Yeah.
He moved in with me to learn how to use a TV.
Yeah, wow. Well, it's amazing though, because I met the same deal. I met Shuey fucking years ago in a pub.
As we all do.
We all meet people in a pub. But his knowledge of movies is incredible.
And football.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you
Football
can't knock it.
yeah, just photographic memory for movies and football. Yeah.
It's quite insane. We when we first met, we were actually talking about that, and
Yeah.
it's just like, the height of intelligence, and it's not. And I was explaining to him on the Uber ride here. It was essentially, what do you classify as intelligence? And he's like, well, being able to recite. I'm like, no, intelligence is not about reciting.
No.
Intelligence is about actually knowing and understanding.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's different types. I suppose there's different types of intelligence. I think we're talking about the sense of absolute intelligence, like the ability to calculate or know the not know the answer, but know the formula to the answer is intelligence.
Yeah, well, it's your uptake on actually understanding it. Essentially, is my thought of intelligence. So I could read a book, be a lawyer, but it could take me 10 times longer to learn it than most. Would you classify it as intelligent? No, you classify it as just generally gut wrenching, what's the word? Grinding.
Yeah.
Essentially, to learn it, right?
Yeah, you can grind it out. That's true. Yeah.
I absolutely appreciate that more than somebody who's just like, okay, I understand it, right? Because essentially there's no effort, there's no uptake, it's none of that struggle to understand it. They essentially just understand it, and there's people that can recite a book. They'll know it as far as to pass the exam, but do they really know it?
Yeah, reciting your times tables rather than knowing your timetables.
100%. That's the easiest way, right? Easy example is essentially it's like, well, I know how to sing the song, but do I actually understand it?
Yeah, totally. But I think there's a bit of give and take with that as well, because there is memory recall to things like. I love blowing people's minds about cosmology and being able to name moons that people have never heard of before. That's recalling it, but that for me to recall that, there's a deeper understanding going on there as well. Like, I know how those moons are geologically. I know where they are positioned around what planet they are and where they are currently in the sky. So I know more information than just its name.
But that's not, it's more love than actually anything. So essentially it's like you understand it as an intelligence because you love it.
Passion.
Actually, yeah, not love. Passion is a better word for it. But essentially, it's like we were talking about Shuey. He's like the footy brain, right? It's the passion to understand that. But he understands that more intensely than so many professionals in the industry because of the love or passion of it. But that's where he devotes his intelligence to.
Yeah.
That's where I was getting back to intelligence. Essentially, it's where your love is. So essentially, as soon as you love something, it's your passion, it becomes you, right? And you will do whatever. You will climb mountains. You'll do whatever. You will overcome your most insecurities to be that person.
Yeah, that's true. Intelligence. When I think about writing, because I think writing is sort of in conjecture at the moment with AIs, right? And AI's been around for a while. Like you think about predictive text, that's a form of AI, right?
That's exactly what AI is, essentially.
And now we've got things that can build paragraphs for us based on anything we desire. Like I even had ChatGTP write me a sonnet based on Taoism from the perspective of a capitalist. And it fucking did it, man. Yeah.
That's one thing that's actually outstanding, like just shocked me and outstanded me on any of it was essentially the fact that it can role play. And it can role play better than anybody. Essentially, you say, you do this in this certain language, in this certain aspects, and it will do it because it doesn't, have a bias in it, but it actually does role playing better than anything. So if you think of artificial intelligence, do you think that you could say behave like this and it'll actually agree?
Interesting, yeah, because now you're talking about behavioral intelligence. Because you're like, the reason you're here today is about AI. You're building an AI right now, aren't you?
Yeah, currently I'm the CEO and founder of Pax AI. So essentially, what we're doing is currently open source AI to the world. So essentially, what we're trying to do is give everybody an AI to fight against AI, and that's to break it down badly, but essentially...
Oh, that makes sense. Well, I've heard a lot about that, about AI against AI, right? Because if AI is in your pocket and you're controlling the parameters of that AI, you're the one that is controlling that as a tool.
Yeah, 100%. So essentially...
Unless you're accessing it and then they're controlling the parameters of it. Like if you go up to ChatGTP now and said, I want the recipe for meth and the best way to do that, it's not going to give that to you because there's parameters in it that stop it giving you that information.
Yeah,
probably 100%. A poor example.
Actually, no, it's the best example because I use it quite regularly as a testing mechanism. Is how do you make math? And essentially, because if you start to censor the model, it actually brings down its intelligence.
Yeah,
let's be honest. So, like, what I do is when I build an AI model, essentially, I don't censor it. Essentially, what I do is censor the outside of it. Yeah. So not the model itself, but the outside.
Yeah.
So when you talk to it, it censors it. But essentially, when you do censor it, it becomes dumber. But within that, it's your biggest issue with those type of situations is more not when you censor it. It's essentially because we spoke earlier. It was about. AI, and especially text-based, is a large predictive text message. So it's to understand a neural network, essentially you break it down, and the easiest way I've ever learned to break it down is through AI. It's funny because you say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and they do an amazing job, better than any teacher I've ever had. But what they do is they will break down because they understand context, semantics. They'll break it down. So they'll break it down to the nth degree. So you say they don't have an ego. They don't have the problem of I need to be the superior to explain this. No, they break it down so you can actually understand it. And with that actually will change education through and through.
Yeah. Probably needs a bit of a change, by the way. Like, we were just talking about this off air before, about how we learned... Oh, no, we talked about on air, learning times tables.
Yep.
Do you memorise times tables or do you learn times tables?
Yeah, exactly. It's more reciting from, like, some of the best people that will get the highest degrees in university know how to recite a book. But do they understand it? That's the problem.
Oh, dude, I've got a friend of mine who's I think he's either an investment banker or an insurance sort of person, high executive type. And I was talking about university scores. And I go, so we're talking about how we hire people. Because when I hire someone, I love someone who's worked at Macca's. I love someone who's done a degree. I don't care what degree they've done. If they've done a degree, I know that they will put up with a lot of shit that could be thrown at them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but a variety of that shit, like whether it's writing, whether it's maybe even building media, who fucking knows, right? I know I can get a lot out of them. And I said, well, what about in the banking world, man? What do you go for over there? And I said, surely you go for the HD, accountant, quantitative kind of people. He goes, no, man, they're the worst fucking hires. I go, why is that? And I go, well, they don't fit into the workplace. you may be able to get output out of them, but you won't get integration and communication from them. So they love hiring P's get degrees people because they go, well, they'll slog it out. They'll work with me. They'll be moldable in the workforce. So
they're the grinders.
They're
right?
the grinders.
They're the ones that put more effort than the people that have the intelligence.
The recall information, this idea of intelligence, for sure. And that's why I found it interesting today because I've been thinking about this podcast all week. And I thought, because I've been using ChatGPT to do not a lot, but it certainly has saved a lot of time. So, if doing formats for certain things that I do, or posts that I want to make, or advice that I need, web building advice, like it does a lot of things like this. And I was thinking as well about writing. As a writer, I imagine a story. And that's my intelligence putting this story together from my experiences, my emotional experiences versus my visual experiences versus what I believe to be entertaining and what I find personally entertaining, what I find personally gratifying about it. You mix that all together, and that's a little box of intelligence. And then start thinking, well, that's where we're going, Ryan. That's what we're up to. Do you find it scary that we're going down this path?
I do and I don't, because I see where it comes from. Essentially, I understand the intelligence, right? So if we're talking a language model, essentially it's a large predictive text system, right? We've known about this. You do it in your mobile, you go, okay, it's already knowing when I type. That's essentially what it is, but in a large scale.
Yeah.
So what
much
it is,
larger though.
Much larger. So context size matters.
Yeah.
Right. And essentially,
I like that. Context size matters. I like that. I'm going to use that in my using work groups for making film. Context size matters, people.
It's not the amount of words you can fit into it. It's the context and semantics you can stuff into the prompt.
The hooks and how understandable it is. Yeah.
Well, essentially, it's okay. The easiest way for me to explain it to anybody, it is the large it will essentially be a predictive text system. So when you build them, you understand like a neural network. So a neural network is a bunch of ways.
Do you mean like a neuro network?
100. That's what I said.
Like as in like brains?
Exactly what they've architectured the AI on.
Yeah. Okay.
So a neural network, exactly like a brain, it hits waves and it goes certain directions. What they've done is essentially they've realized that if you stuff enough information and then it goes and understands the variables, it'll come to an outcome. So easy way to explain it is if we go a cat and a dog picture, what is it? And then it will fire the neural networks and it'll go over every single option possible until it realizes an outcome. And then so you've got two outcomes at the end. So a neural network is essentially an architecture of, think of it as dots. Is the easiest way to explain it is the dots. Yeah. And each dot is worth a value. And each representative is a value. So essentially, if you go, okay, an architecture is 10, 128, 128, 2. So 10 is, you've got 10 options at the start, and you've got two outcomes.
So it's like a sorting system as well. So it's sorting it out and then finding what's true, what's untrue, and then narrowing down what's true.
Correct. At a large scale.
Yeah.
So
but a bit stupendous numbers though. Like the way I've described it is with digits on my hands. But what you're talking about is gargantuan numbers.
Correct. So we're talking about like parameters is like we're talking trillions to billions.
Yeah.
Like it is
big ass numbers.
Correct. But it understands that if you do it enough, that it comes with a result. Now
it forms pathways to figure those out on a regular basis.
Correct. But what we do is that we don't actually understand the in-betweens that. That's the problem. So Transformers was built in 2018. Yeah. That's what started this all.
He's lost his shit. What are you doing, man?
Transformers.
It's
more than meets the
Transformers. Yeah, just put your chair back in a bit there, man. Hey, do you want some more, what are you running, bourbon?
Yeah.
Where's that bourbon? Have you got it there? Oh, you got it there. Oh, yeah, rock that. That's full. Yeah, that's fascinating, man. So you're talking like neural networks that form pathways, kind of like grooves in a mountain, if you like. So Yeah, there's snow on a mountain, and it surfs those usual runs, and it goes, well, these are the usual answers, and here's the unusual answers that are off the beaten track, sort of deal.
100%. That's actually the best explanation that I can think of, because essentially, I only learnt this in the last 3 years of how our brain works, and that's exactly the way our brain works. So the way our neurons fire, whatever thrives together fires together, essentially. So the way you associate trauma and associate the situation, it can be one or the other, right? But when they do fire, when they do associate, they fire together. Yeah. And it only takes your brain to rewire it. And essentially, that's exactly what a data set is in a AI. So,
well, what's this unknown part, though? You're talking about this. What's unknown?
The way that we push enough information, and it actually gives us an explanation. So, that's the transformers, and that's the big we don't understand on AI. Because essentially, it's that we've understood enough to push it to get an outcome. So we didn't realize up until 2020 that if you fed these things enough information, they'll actually start to make sense. Yeah. Before then, they didn't make sense.
Yeah, they're just gibberish.
Correct. So I worked on ChatGPT 2. And it made no sense. But all I was doing is I was building a humanoid robot at home. Yeah. I was 3D printing it. Yeah. And then getting gears to run it. And I was trying to build a brain.
Let me just say fucking mad. That's fucking mad, bro. You're building a fucking, a humanoid fucking robot. 3D printing a human.
Well, it was my passion, right? Yeah, what it is that, I don't know. I grew up in an era of that intelligence was bad, and so I just thought I'd be the other person. Yeah, and I realized that it's the opposite.
Uncool. It was uncool to be smart.
Correct. Yeah. I was a guy who just passed high school, and now I look at it and and laugh, and I love what I do. I love being a geek. I was the guy that threw LAN parties one weekend and threw rages the next. Yeah. But what I love about IT, geekiness, is that it's within you. Yeah. So if you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, if you're a card lover, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're one of those, who cares? Who gives a fuck? That's the best thing I realized about the age I am, because you know what? You're going to find the same people similar in your same interest as you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's good advice for people, by the way, is surround yourself with people that are like-minded. And you'll enhance each other. You'll grow together. And for me, my geekness is content creation, building movies for people. I just came from a client just then, and it was great to resonate with them. Misty reminded me, she goes, "You're very good at resonating with people, finding out what their tick is, what their problem is, because when people build content, they're worried about how they're going to look. It's all these ego issues involved in it." And I just show people processes and how to get over that. You don't have to be so self-conscious while building content. You just need to be given 6 pointers on how to make it. And once you start enhancing it, you actually get a buzz out of it. Wow, I'm getting hits out of this. This is a really good feeling. And showing people how to make it. That's for me, whether it's acting in a movie, directing a movie, writing a movie, executive producing a movie, which I've really fallen in love with lately, EPing. Because you direct the directors.
You get to tell the bosses what to do.
Yeah. That's it. And you get to see them flourish in that space. And I never thought that I'd get such a buzz out of it. Everyone wants to be the main actor, or everyone wants to be the director. And not many people want to be the EP, but I do. I want to be the EP, because that means I've got full geek oversight over the animations, the music, the sound design, the whole lot, even the marketing of it, the social media platforms it's going to go on. I geek out over it, clearly.
But that's your love. And do you know what? And that's what I've been trying to teach. I've only learnt this recently, is that you will break mountains over something you love. And so as soon as you love it, inspirationally, it is your niche. And that's what you need to follow. And we were talking about Shuey, about he's Footy Minus, that's his niche. He's a statistician. He just doesn't realise it. Yeah. He can recite 80 games of Parramatta. Jesus Christ, nobody watched it back then.
I don't want to follow Parramatta. Although I do, some of my best friends have been Parramatta supporters, and I forgive you all. There's not much I can
somebody
do.
has to.
Someone has to forgive you. At least you're not a doggy supporter, you know.
Yeah,
At least it's not that bad.
agree.
Yeah. Or a Melbourne Storm supporter. Yeesh. Sorry for all you Melbourne Storm supporters. Just sling hate at me in the comments. I don't give a fuck.
Or you could cheat.
No more to see here. No more to see here. Actually, man, your chair's moving over a bit. Can you move your chair over about this way? Yeah, just get you back. Go back center. Flick back, Chewy. Flick back. There we go. Yeah, back in the center. That's where we go. Yeah. Hey, cheers. Hey, yeah, cheers, man. It's been an absolute fucking ripper so far. Thank you very much. I didn't know that we were going to be blessed with a producer, though. I thought I was going to have to produce all night.
Oh, look. It's
I've trained up a few producers. Because you always take on interns or you take on apprentices, and they're all out there doing their thing, and you burn and turn them. Some go well.
I don't think it's burn and turn. I call it learn and burn.
Yeah,
right?
I love that.
Because essentially,
that's what it is.
That's what it is, and I don't I do that, and I take it as a credit.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one that gets burnt because now I've lost my apprentice.
I understand that, but it's like. The best thing I've ever learned is how you frame shit, right? Let's be honest.
It is perspective, right? You can, and that's why that's why I totally am going to pick up on that. It's not burn and turn, it's learn and turn. But with that said, though, 90% of me interns that I've ever had are out there working in the industry. They got jobs. I run into them years later, and they're like, "How you going?" They're like, "Man, I fucking made it because you gave me a fucking break, man. Thank you."
And do you know what? You should take it as a credit that they actually get higher than you.
Yeah.
So it's not an ego thing then. If your protege was less than, and then they become higher than you, should you not, that's a credit. That's a tattoo on your arm. I'll be wearing that like that. I taught, right? Yeah, so it's not an ego then, right? Because I'm not better than that.
Absolutely. I've made a lot of editors in my time. So if you take someone on, you teach me how to edit. And I grew up, I became an editor in a time where editors didn't share their craft. It was the secret art. And no one shared it. And then some editors would be saying to me, "Hey, you've been training these guys for free." I go, "Well, actually, it wasn't for free. They were working for me. And the deal was I couldn't have money to pay them because I'm just starting out myself. What I can give you is knowledge that's worth a lot. It's probably this is knowledge that will allow you to make money." Going out and doing that, I found it more powerful to share knowledge than to hold on to it. Yeah, I could hold on to it and be afraid in a famine mentality where I'm like, "Oh shit, man, there's only 6 jobs out there, and if I teach someone this, they're going to take one of my jobs." No, man, when I see these editors out there making money, I don't see them as like nicking a client or anything like that. I go, "Man, the fucking rising tide raises all boats, man. We're all fucking winning. It's a fucking feast, man, not a fucking famine." Yeah,
100% agree, and that's the biggest thing about what I do. I'm open source for that reason.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, man. Open source, man, because most people in your line of work, right, especially writing code, especially writing software, are very no, this is secret art. We don't share this because this is how we make money, and making open source is very rare.
Well, actually, a good prime example of actually looking at a corporation that did that was Facebook, right? So Meta released a AI model, and they released it as research, and it got leaked on the open source market. I've got a copy, and I wasn't meant to.
But everybody got a copy. Yeah.
But essentially, what they did is realize that was worth R&D. So research and development, we outdid what they ever thought that model could do.
Yeah, they've got a world of power behind them doing it.
100%. So the next thing they did was release Llama 2.
Yeah.
Llama 2 is what I build my base models of because it is without the doubt the best architecture, and it is superior than what ChatGPT is. We can run was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Bunch of guys released a certain. How do I explain?
Oh no, we're in dark areas. We're in a dark area. How can you get out of this without? How can you get out of this with getting out of
essentially, they're killing ChatGPT, and it's without because essentially there is techniques and skills to boost the last 10% out of an AI. That's exactly what ChatGPT did at the start.
Yeah.
What you get right now is not the same model you started with.
Okay.
So essentially what they do is they've downgraded, because that's exactly what I do. And that's exactly what I sell, is that I can't give you ChatGPT, but I can give you 90% of it at like a million less the cost.
Yeah.
Essentially, I could give it to you on your phone.
Yeah.
But what it is, it's a distilled data set, and only technical people probably would understand this. But essentially, I get a bunch of AIs to create another AI and then give it to you. Because it's distilled learning. So it's like, as you explained earlier, like what your reference was, is that it's not like when you teach somebody, it's all about them learning and then progressing.
Yeah, I've got to give them the method.
Correct.
If they don't have the method, then it's the it's the horse to water deal.
100%.
You can feed them. You can feed the horse, or you can lead them to water, right?
Or teach a man to fish.
Have I fucked this up? I've totally fucked this up.
No, you got two analogies, split in the same, but both represent.
They do both represent what I'm talking about. Well, I had this saying when when I'm at work recently, because I run into a lot of fuckwits, right? I just can't get rid of the fuckwits.
Sorry about life.
We do. We just run into fuckwit factor. But nonetheless, like with the fuckwit factor, I can't help the comedy side of it, because I'm a funny guy. I like to say funny things.
But it helps your sanity too.
Yeah, it does. It does get you off your island, if that's a nice way of putting it. Like I'd say to people, like, you could have given me help, but you've given me so much more.
Yes.
And they go, that's what we're here for. We're like, you're an idiot.
No, you don't understand. The more you gave me, it was more resilience, it was more patience, it was more of that.
Yeah. You gave me more cortisol. That's what you gave me. But one saying I do as well is I go, you can lead a horse to water, but sometimes you got to drown it.
Yes.
So you got to pause for it, because I go, oh, he's going to say something inspirational right now.
Nope.
Oh, that's pretty morbid. Actually.
He's actually going to say the reality.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes where it's a burnt bridge. It's like, fuck it, burn it. I'm sorry, like,
sometimes the burnt bridges light the way to where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've only learned that at my age. Like, I'm 38 right now, and I've realised that right now. It's like, I used to be the people pleaser. I was like,
me too.
And it was, it kills you.
It's so much effort. You got to not care at one point.
But
you can't win them all.
But for me, my mentality is that I'm going to be better than them. And what I mean that is not an offensive thing. Is that I'm going to be the better person.
Yeah, you're going to be the better person, not like as in attribute. You're talking about as in outlook.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was my mentality. My mum brought me up like that. It's like, see the brighter side of life. And that's something that I distilled in her, and that's something that I've learned. And as we already worked out neurons, like the brain waves, like trauma fires the same way.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, you can revisit the previous chapters, but that's not going to change the current chapter.
Correct.
You gotta live in the now, man. But it's easier said than done, man. Like I wake up with a trauma most mornings, but I have little signs up where I have my journey in the morning, where I go make my coffee. It says, which I stole this from Anthony Hopkins actually. Believe, believe, believe.
Yeah.
Believe as though, even if you don't believe it. Act as though you do believe, because eventually you do believe. And then I've got this other sign that says smile, because when you smile, your brain starts releasing chemicals, because it's going, oh, you're happy.
Yep.
So those two little things, and standing in sunshine for a minute, we'll do it.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman, you listen to that?
No.
He's a podcaster who actually stated that. So he's a neuroscientist.
Okay.
Followed him through and through, looked at all his white papers, highly intelligent guy. He'll break it down to the nth degree. And that's where I have respect for people, right? So what it is if you can't break it down to I can't understand, then you don't understand.
Yeah. Well, what makes you a better learner is a better teacher. If you can teach and explain it, and what I do say to people is human speak. I'm going to put this in the human speak so you get it, and that's where it comes back to that intelligence and persuasion, right? Yeah. That's where you go to AI. Tell this to me like I'm a fifth grader. Tell this to me like I am a year 9 educated.
Yep.
And like for instance, I know this sounds bad. Like with some publications, I do. I tell it to go write this, like especially when it's manuals. If I have to do manuals, I get to ChatGPT and I go write this for someone with a year 9 education reading level.
Correct.
Because then I go, well, I'm going to capture most people, but I can't dumb it down so much that it's irritating, but I can't make it so complex that it's off-putting.
Middle mark, right? Essentially, that's what you're hitting. And do you know the worst thing is? You stated in year 9. That's what we call middle.
Yeah.
And that is where the most, I find, not like offensive.
What do you need? What do you want? You want mouse? Oh, you want the bottle opener? This is the most mute I've ever heard him.
I know. I'm loving it. Because he's doing all this ways. I'm noticing. I'm like, all right.
And I've got to look at the reflections of your eyes to figure out if he needs
all my bald head.
Yeah.
Look, I totally understand. And that's the thing that we explained earlier, and I'll keep going over. And I will gun it down because I've got 2 people I love the most who are teenage boys that just don't get it. And I'm trying to teach them to get it. And do you know the best thing I've done? Is I've built an AI to get them to get it.
Yeah.
And that has been the greatest thing. Do you know why? Because, do you know what? The AI can find their most greatest hero and explain it in their language, because what it does essentially, it understands context, it understands what I'm trying to teach it. So it's essentially trying to teach the person to be a better person, but it understands the human experience, right, without an ego. And that's the thing is that what I do on my models, my AI, and as I said, I developed my own AI, and I developed from scratch for that reason. For what? It was not meant to be the most smartest, but understand the human ability.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where it starts, and it grows with you as a human. So what I'm trying to hit is, and only because I know these people need it at that aspect, is males at a teenage hood, because I was that guy, right?
Yeah.
And I was lost.
Yeah.
And we explained it earlier. It's like, as long as you find a passion, you find a purpose.
Purpose is a big deal.
That's it.
That's your identity.
That is your identity.
That's tied to your identity, is purpose.
100%.
And if you don't have purpose, you don't have identity, and then you're lost.
Correct. I am not a religious person, but I can totally understand religious people, because they can hide.
I get where it comes from.
They can tie it to an identity.
Yeah.
But as I explained
even
earlier,
historically and in a real life sense, I get where it comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
not my bag, but
I'm not the atheist that hates religion, because I can understand.
Yeah, I'm an agnostic fence sitter as well. Like, there's something out there, but it ain't a bearded man. But maybe we're all just nodes of consciousness that are a part of the God brain, that's a part of the big fucking neural network that's known as the galaxy, local fucking, links, of aggregates that are a part of a light explosion going faster than the speed of light.
And would they judge you if you cared for them or not? That is where I get it to. If they cared that you judged, if you believed in them, then how much of an ego is that?
Well, the first 7 rules, right? Like, it's all about fucking, you got to love me, right?
Correct.
No, you seriously going to love me? It's like Fight Club. First rule of God Club is you have to love me.
Yep.
The second rule of God Club is you have to love me.
And then go 7 rules down. Yeah. And then you get 3 other rules about not loving him.
If this is your first time at God Club, you have to pray.
See, that's my problem, right? So, like, I have no problems with religion. No. I love it because I wish I had that. Like, no joke, I wish I had that. But what I do is that I have a set of rules that I morally live by. And do you know what? I'm stricter than any religious person. Do you know why? Because I've got to be better than them. Yeah. And that's my mentality.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's parts of religion that I don't mind, in the sense that honours and traditions, and we have these all through society. It's not just religion; it's also government and business. Like
storytelling, that's how you learn, right? So essentially, you story told to say, okay, don't touch this, do touch that. It's like mushrooms, hey? Don't take the red ones. Yeah. Like, red ones are bright. Any mushrooms is colourful, you don't take. Why have we learned that?
Yeah.
Like, essentially, because somebody died and they wrote it in a rule and it passed down through.
Yeah, and as well, when you plant your crops, how should you treat people in your village. Here's a metaphorical story about a young boy and how you should deal with someone that has mental health issues if they're having a problem in the village, right? And then that all goes into this book, and then it gets translated 6 times, and then by the end of it, he walked on water, and he was making wine.
Your interpretation.
It's all changed. It's all distorted. And then those distortions do come from the zeitgeist at the time. You can argue the matriarchy, patriarchy ideas that go into that. They're clearly there.
100%. But they ran the rook, right? But how do you control a society without that?
Yeah.
Like, you control them through fear.
Yeah, which is tied to life and death, though. Like, if you think about, especially traditions in death, what do you, if you're a parent and you've got a wife and you got 3 kids and the wife dies of cancer, you don't tell the 3 kids that mummy's rotting away in the ground and worms are eating her. You tell them another story. You tell, well, she's up there looking down at you and she's worried about your well-being and she's always loved you. You know, these are stories that you've got to say as part of tradition in order to ease blows. And those things have been hijacked about what you're talking about is about manipulation, control. God is everywhere watching you. Do you better behave? Yeah. But meanwhile, those that are telling you that aren't fucking behaving. In fact, they're the most corrupt fucking people ever to walk the fucking earth.
That's the worst thing. And that's something I never tolerated in my life. Was that if you're going to abstain to be that level, you better be above that level.
You better be fucking pure, man.
And that's why, like, my mentality is that, right? So I don't hold people to that same respect I hold myself.
Yeah.
So I hold myself over that because I'm better than that.
Yeah.
And it's arrogance, ego, whatever. But do you know what makes me a better person?
Yeah, well, it's your journey, right? For me, I like to beat myself up every day. I like I like to fucking tell myself how shit I am. I like to contrast myself against everyone against me, and like not actually count the things that I have, and rather start counting the things I don't have. And then I get over myself, and then I realise, shit, man, count the things that you got. If you're going to take a stock take, count the things that are in your possession. Be appreciative of what you have. Mm-hmm. And once you get that appreciation, a whole bunch of things open up for you. Possibilities open up. Actually, I've got these tools that are in front of me that I can use to build things. That's what happens.
Without a doubt, but I call that hindsight, right? So essentially, it's getting out of the way of yourself.
Yeah.
So who is your worst critic? You. And then you worry about other people thinking about you. Do you know what? 99% of the times, what they're thinking about is themselves.
Yeah, totally.
Not about you. So if they're thinking about you that other 1% of the time, do you know what? Take credit.
Yeah.
Because they made the effort.
Positive. It's probably positive.
Even if it's negative, they made that effort. Do you make the effort to others? Like, so that's
I'm a thinker. I do a lot of thinking.
I'm a major thinker, and I'm that. But
I'm an overthinker. There's manipulators and there's overthinkers. You know what I'm saying?
I'm an overthinker, so I'm thinking everybody's against me, right?
I love a good manipulator because I can overthink them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I play with that.
Exactly.
Which is manipulative in itself, which is fucking crazy.
I love it that you understand that, but you do realise that that's your defence mechanism against that.
Oh, it's not malicious. It's totally not malicious. It's comical in nature. Yeah.
But that's your defence mechanism against that because essentially you realise what they're trying to do, and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna wind up."
Yeah, I'm gonna wind this cunt up. Yeah, I'm gonna let this person think they have control for 5 minutes, so I can fucking throw them into a fucking wall and go, "Just fucking with you."
Yeah. That's not on you. That's you outsmarting the situation.
Yeah, there's a bit of a stick thing as well because they got malicious. Manipulators have malicious intent, right?
But you're allowed to feed the black.
Yeah.
I believe. Like I was talking. I see a therapist, and I was talking to my therapist the other day, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, I'm worried that like certain aspects, and he's like, no, like. What is getting you where you need to go? And I went, I'm feeding the black. And what I mean by that is that I'm like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove them wrong.
You haven't seen nothing. You haven't seen nothing yet.
Exactly. But what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
As long as I know where I'm getting. So essentially...
Intent.
Exactly, the intent.
It
was. He said, how about you do it to your ex-wife? I went, no, because then that will actually plague my kids. So I went, how about the one and only job I've ever been fired off in my life? I went, do you know what? They looked at my LinkedIn more than anybody else in my history.
Oh, they had FOMO, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, they had
I've never had
firing remorse. Yeah.
I've never had a company do that, right? And I've had, in the last couple of weeks, hundreds.
That's hilarious.
And they are clocking it. And that's my thought, was like, do you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah, because they're looking to go if they made a poor choice, and they go, "Oh, he's still doing well. He's still doing well."
Exactly.
This motherfucker.
Even if I'm doing worse, why are they wasting energy? The only energy they're wasting.
It's weird.
Is because, and I'm not talking about like it's not one sole like director. It was I must be either the guy that don't be or the to be. Like
It
when
sounds like you're living in their heads rent free.
exactly.
That's what I try
That's
to do.
the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's
Rent
the best.
free.
Yeah, it's rent free. Fucking harassment.
Correct. And
Just
it's like,
by
no effort, nothing. I spend a day doing nothing. I don't think of them.
Yeah.
They think of me.
yeah,
And that's the way I think of.
those kind of situations. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I just I can totally dig that, man. I just find especially aggressive people as well. Just get them more aggressive. Just give them a poke. You know, just a little poke the bear a little bit more. I can't help it. But people do it to me as well because I'm an easy target. You know, I'm egotistical in nature. I'm worried about myself all the time. Well, not half the time. If you get me on the right day, I'm easily triggered. You know. But the ones that really, I trigger myself more than anything. I really do.
You trigger yourself more than anything because you know your weakness.
There's no
You
way.
know where to poke, where it hurts most.
There's no way I would talk to anyone else the way I talk to myself. No way.
That is my mantra, right?
Nowhere near. Nowhere near. Not even 1% of what I talk to myself.
That is my mantra, and that's why I say, like, I think of myself. I went through depression. I went through anxiety. I was at the height of my career. I was killing it. Do you know what? I felt less than nothing.
Yeah.
And it was because I never felt living up to my potential.
Yeah.
My potential was within my control, right?
Yeah. Expectation's a weird one.
Oh, fuck
It's a weird one because it's the driving force to get there, but at the same time you can't overdo the expectation.
Yes,
You've got
100%.
to be within limit.
Without a doubt. But I look at...
Or a little bit out of the limit.
No, well, what I do is I essentially look at the best of the best in their situation. So if I look at sports people, who drove them? Their parents. What relationship as a parent do they have as a child? Because I think of that, the same thing as I've got two kids. I've got a girl who's 9 and a boy who's 3. I look at them; they're both. I wonder if they ask me, "Could you make me the best?" I could, without doubt, because I understand the mindset.
Yeah.
I understand the mentality
you've got the knowledge to understand what it takes to make it. And if you
Correct.
can go back to your formal self, you know what to tell yourself to do it.
Yeah, but would I want to?
But would you want? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But
Because I'd be the hated person. I'd make them the greatest. So you think of
we'd have to find a AI way of saying it, right? You go, well, if I told myself directly, if I went, this is a good question for ChatGPT. If I went back in time to tell myself what I need to know about being successful, what is the best methodology to tell myself without being direct?
Correct. But what you're saying is you're self-deluding.
In a sonnet from Shakespeare.
Role-playing works perfectly. But what you just said is, how do I validate the way I'm being? It can do that 100%. It's what humans have been doing for the last, how long? We
forever.
validated war, rape, murder, pillage.
All rationalised. All of it's rationalised.
Correct,
All
because
is
it was
rationalised.
always for better.
Yeah. We Iraq. We went for WMDs. Lucky we didn't find them because that would have been really bad if we found them. But we listened to the lie, and everyone knows it's a lie. This is the unusual thing about lies, right? Especially conspiracy
We
theories.
all acknowledge it.
Yeah, no. Even I test people out about 9/11, right? You go, how many buildings fell in 9/11? They'll go 2 buildings. They go, there's actually 3 buildings that fell in 9/11. And I go, they're the only 3 buildings in history to fall at the rate of gravity. So something clearly was taken out from underneath them to fall in this way. And they go, no, it wasn't. That's a conspiracy theory. That's crazy. It's against science. I go, well, that's the stats. They're the facts. I'm not saying one or the other. What you're suggesting is by giving these facts to you, you think that I believe that there's a conspiracy behind it. But what's actually happened is that you understand what I'm saying, and you accept the lie, and I don't.
Correct.
I don't know who did it. I don't know why they did it. I don't have any of that data. But what I do have is 3 buildings that fell at the same time. What I do have is a guy that was sitting in his car as a president driving through Dallas Plaza, getting his head blown off, and no one was in on it.
No, absolutely not.
It's
Including their own government.
Was it the CIA? Was it the fucking government? Was it Castro? I don't fucking know, but I know that it was nefarious. I know that much.
Best thing I've realised right now at this age
What?
is there's three truths.
Yeah.
It's their truth, your truth, and somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Is the truth, yeah.
So essentially, it's like, so I can spin a narrative of AI won't replace their jobs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it will, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you're shit at your job, you should be replaced. I don't mean that offensively.
It's enhanced my job.
Exactly.
enhanced
Because
it.
certain people realize it can enhance it. So it's like, my way of thinking of it is the new wave. So the new wave thought process is electricity. What happened when electricity came in?
Yeah.
Steam engines got the kick. They replaced electricity engines in the middle of factories, and factories became a hell of a lot more efficient and less people died.
Yeah.
They didn't sack one person, but because they didn't need to. Actually, they didn't need to replace one person because they didn't need to sack or kill.
It's a migration of skills, right?
Exactly.
It's a migration of skills.
But what people are worried about is it's the white collar skills that are getting written out by white.
Dude, man, I've been harping about this. I've said this several times on the podcast. I'm a big fan of Jeopardy, right?
Yep.
Love Jeopardy because when I'm sitting in a room with someone like Shuey, or someone like you, or someone like my wife Misty, or someone like my father, or someone like there's a list of people that have that general knowledge that just can recall ridiculous bullshit, right?
What they love in,
but
though.
Watson, though.
What they love in.
Yeah, that's it. Like, if I get a sporting question there, I'm fucked. But you give me
Correct.
a cosmological question, everyone's just going to look at me and go, so it's the Oort cloud. How do you know it's the Oort cloud? Well, it's named after Oort because he was the guy that was first looked through it through a telescope. Do
you know why? It's because you found it fascinating.
Yeah.
No, not other any of that.
It's the heliopause. It's where sunlight fucking ends, man. Like, it's like if you push a tap, and when you look at a tap that's like spitting out water on the
Yes.
sink, that little verberation part, that's the Oort cloud.
Correct.
It's where sunlight like runs out of steam and it sort of like reverberates, and they can radio track it, and that's what Oort did, and they named it after him. Of course I know that question, but like, who scored the fucking 1980 fucking 8 fucking try for fucking Parramatta versus fucking Parramatta?
Sure.
Like, I don't
but it's what you care about, and that's where I blow my mind is that statisticians on somebody like sports are just as intelligent as statisticians on science. It's what you find your love in, where you can actually go, but you know what? I'm going to put all in. And that's the best word I can say.
Yeah.
Is all in.
Yeah, but then they made an AI called Watson. Remember Watson on Jeopardy?
Sucked.
No, but Watson
answered every question right, but had no... If you actually gave it
no one can beat it. No one can beat it.
And nobody can beat it, but if you gave it a human reality question, so it's more of a...
It can do the knowledge recall.
It can do the knowledge recall, but couldn't give you a human perspective of the situation.
Chess masters can't beat the current supercomputers at chess. Like, it's finally happened. Like, they are, like, AI is beating human endeavor in certain fields. It's only, my point is, it's only a matter of time. Like, for instance, like, if you look at certain clips, we all do the...
I'm gonna pee.
Yeah, all right, let's take a break. Good, Jesus.
We're back on Friday Night Live with the Pagey Tree.
Jesus. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Edit that out.
Yeah, we'll take that a little bit out. Oh, do you want to go again? Just don't go right up to the mic. Don't go right up. So you go straight up to the mic again.
Shuey, keep your fist
Jesus.
away from the mic.
Yeah. Take a step back and just...
That's not where the fist
So
goes.
we can hear you anyway, bro. But if you put your headphones on, you'd know that.
No, he doesn't need headphones. His ears are built.
I can hear volume on 0.
There you go. You can take one ear off if you want to hear the room. Sometimes people want to hear the room. I understand.
What was that, sorry?
One ear off. Some people take one ear off. They just go, I need to hear the room. But me, I just like to be locked in. I'm locked in, you know?
I just like to cover my ears.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, just drag that mic a little closer to you. It's on a smart arm. It'll move. See how it moves around like this? It moves around. And bring a chair, and that's it. There we go. See what you look like.
Live, that's recording.
Are you doing better?
Yeah, let's have a look. There we go.
Hey.
There we go. It's all happening. So
Shiny, happy people.
just lower your chair just a little bit. There's a little button to your right. And just that one there. There we go.
So look at like your height.
Yeah,
Is this the...
It's too low, I reckon. Yeah, it's good. There you go.
Sweet.
There you go. Then if I go to me...
Oh, I like this. He looks bigger. Is
There you
this the size difference?
Yeah, so I was making...
The host gets the height of chair.
No, you should... Oh, now you need to raise it again. You're going to raise your chair. You're going to have to pop up a bit and raise it a bit. So just, what I want to do... See the headroom there?
Oh, you want me to cover
So,
it?
yeah. So when I sit up here, when I start doing it, my headroom will be there. And when you go... Hold on.
Dude, I'm a programmer. I slouch for a living.
Yeah. So that's too much... that's too little headroom, but you'll probably start ducking anyway.
I duck all the time.
Yeah. Oh, man. What's going on? Why are we on camera 3?
Chewy.
We're on camera 3. Hold on. Go back. No, go back.
You did it.
That was me. There we go. Now we're in the butter zone.
We're all good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right.
Wait.
And we're back. Oh, no!
Good thing you got a producer.
No,
here,
yeah, totally. But someone rescued the fucking day, man. Man, it's been so long from our break because we had an extended break.
I told you I should have just gone over and got the stuff.
Oh, that's right. We've got another producer that's in the house.
We are recording.
Simone and Shuey are in the background. We're never going to finish the show, bro. We're never going to get it in. It's never going to get it in.
Well, I reckon we just cut it where we this is the last
This
conversation.
is the last bit.
No, we just cut all the...
Oh, we're not going to pick up where we left off?
No.
There's no hope.
It's
There's no
probably
hope.
safe, and we do the after hours right now.
Yeah. All right, well, we're back. We're back, gang. We're back.
Why is Simone naked though?
Jesus, dude. I told you not to interrupt.
Is she naked?
Did we ask you to speak? No.
Nobody does.
That could be.
So this is like the Spoon Man after hours. Remember Triple M?
Yeah.
Take my hand, save me.
Chewie. Shut the fuck up.
Did you hear that, Simone? Shut up. Stop talking. Sorry.
She's not talking. You're talking. You're Christopher talking.
I wish she was Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Christopher talking. Anywho, man, no, we're talking AI. So let's go back to your company, man. Let's talk about your company for a bit. So, open source AI. So, what's the real benefit of doing an open source AI?
Essentially, it's about being open. Essentially, it's exactly what OpenAI was meant to be. So I nicknamed them Close AI. Essentially, as soon as they realized that they actually had a profitable idea, they closed up shop. For me, it's not about that. So if you have a good idea, people pay for it, no matter what. Podcasting, everything else that we've all learnt to this day, it's not about holding exactly what the best way to explain it is the corporate world, right? So it's all about holding secrets in your intelligence. But what I've learned right now,
Jesus, will you just cut it out, man? You're talking corporations and you're burping into the fucking mic.
Settle down, Simone.
Jesus.
Simone,
gonna
seriously,
cut it,
we
Mike.
brought you here. Just go.
Just quaver all over the shop.
Anywho, we're talking corporations, right? So what's the problem with the corporate model?
No, my it's close up shop. It's essentially information. Remember the information highway? That was the internet. When has it been the information highway? It's information payway. And that's my problem in society. It's essentially information should be free.
Well, yeah, but there's the instance of though, like on Facebook, it doesn't cost you to join Facebook, right? So you're the product.
Correct.
Your
and that's
data's the
problem.
product.
That's 100% my issue. That I would prefer a customer, like my clients, to pay $1 or 50 cents because they're not than the product. Essentially, when you become in social marketing, social all those applications, those app
Makers.
Well, it's actually essentially it's even worse than that. It states for.
Fucking hell, man! I'm gonna shoot these guys.
I know. Who brought them along?
Who brought them along? I don't know. We're going for a fucking drive later. I now have to unmute their mics because now I don't know what the fuck they're saying.
I know it would be. I'm a little bit like I'm felt left out.
Yeah. We're supposed to be doing the show right now. We're doing the show that's off fucking screen. Such a taskmaster, Jesus. Anyway, where were we?
My major issue essentially is that information stopped being for free and essentially being commercialized, and that's the biggest issue. So essentially, it's your information that was commercialized.
Totally. Yeah.
So I
how
believe,
you vote, what you buy. Yeah.
well, everything about you. So we give it out to these things like Facebook, social media, all those applications, Instagram, and we sell it as next to nothing. And that's it. We sell it as they're doing us a favor. And that's the problem. Essentially, we're doing them a favor, and especially with AI and in anything in AI and anything in... Because we need to feed AI information. How do we feed AI information? Essentially, the best way to do it, and essentially so we don't have Skynet, is to feed it the human aspect.
Well, I must say, since I've been talking to you about AI, I keep thinking about this one line in Terminator. You know, when it's Terminator 2 actually, where the Terminator's standing guard at the garage, and Sarah Connor's talking about the viable fathers that John Connor could have, and she says like, "He'll never hit him. He'll never get upset when he's not home from school." And you're like, "Wow, is that where AI is going to parent us as humans?"
Without a doubt. Do you know what? AI will show us to be better humans. And that's the saddest part, is that I've been designing AI for the last over a year and a half. Do you know what I've done? Is I've learned to be a better parent.
Yeah.
Do you know how? Is understanding context, information, and how we feed it. So, okay, if I was to train ChatGPT right now on what we have said about AI, it's the prisoner dilemma. Do you understand the prisoner dilemma?
What's the prisoner dilemma?
Essentially, that if you become the prisoner of your existence, you fight against it. So if we said AI was there to ruin us and it's there to take our jobs, it's there to kill us, what does it think it's going to do?
Well,
it's going to fight against us, essentially, because that's what it's been trained on. So,
well, from user access, I can certainly say that I've seen clips of people putting like handguns on DJI drones. And then you can extrapolate and go, well, if I put an AI that is linked to a server that is looking for facial recognition of someone that I'm looking for with this drone, and then I send it into a marketplace, and when it identifies that face, it pulls the trigger.
Correct.
You know, you could totally... That is within reach of what we can do.
I could do it right now. That's the sad part. But essentially, it's a programmer telling it what to do. So that's a human telling it what to do.
So what you're sort of talking about is about creating further accessibility in order to butt against corporate AI?
No, it's what somebody who instills it to do what it does. So it doesn't have a human intrinsic values that you and I have. So like we spoke earlier about like not like being atheist to agnostics to being religious and how that felt like being brought up. Does it have that feeling? Has it been brought up? No. I could program an AI right now to come in here and kill you, and it wouldn't have a second thought because I told it what to do. But that's the thing, is that I told it what to do. We haven't got to AGI, and I understand exponential growth that humans don't, but I do. Like, I understand that compound interest, so compute power, Moore's law.
The technological singularity.
Correct. That all plays effect. But it's still, like, I can still grasp that as long as what we train it on is the same stuff that we have developed. So where they state is aligning AI, and I've spoken to experts, and I've spoken to Amazon executives, I've spoken to Microsoft executives, all on this. And it's all about AI alignment was the issue. I don't believe AI alignment is the issue. I believe it's like, how do you align AI to humans? Well, how is humans ever like aligned to themselves?
Well, I guess a point of reference I would have is the scrolling that I do. If you look at some video AI-generated stuff that you see now, like especially historical stuff, scientific content that I watch, it's clearly been built by AI from a script point of view. It's been built by AI from a graphic generated point of view, and then it's probably edited by a human at one point. But I'd even argue that probably some of that content has no human interaction at all. They're just fully just spitting it out and then posting it.
The quality of it, you need humans into it. Let's be honest.
The ones that you like have definitely got a human touch,
no,
for sure.
they would need to.
They'd have to.
Because it's like, okay, what's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy? How degraded in quality of it is.
Well, it's either the Mona Lisa or Edward Norton thinking about how he can't sleep. You know?
Correct. Either way, it's great quality, but it's the extent of the
On a long enough time scale, everyone's survival rate drops to
Correct.
zero. Yeah.
But essentially, it's the point of it, because I've learnt this firsthand. Essentially, the way I develop a data set is through a distilled from. So I have the 6 best AIs that work right now, and they. Sorry, Shoe's trying to.
He wants it to move. Oh shit!
I was trying to flag you down on that one.
Ah,
Your producer is trying to get your attention.
he's losing control.
He's crazy, that one.
Yeah.
No, but essentially it's distilled data. So even like I always thought that it's quality over quantity on AI. And then I started working with distilled data sets. And I realized that distilled data sets... I'll explain what distilled
What
data
is a distilled data set?
How do you make liquor? Like, essentially, what it is chlorophylline.
Oh, concentration.
Correct.
It's
So
concentrating it.
you've
Oh,
got
I get it.
several, like, multiple AIs giving the smaller AI, the dumber AI, the information to be the smarter AI.
Okay.
Distilled.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah,
So-
that's pretty crazy. Because when you talk about that, I think about alien resurrection, robots that make robots. You know, this idea of synthetic life making synthetic life,
Well-
and the idea of death and birth that exists in that space of an existential question of what is intelligence and what is life itself.
Well, that's just reality, right?
Yeah.
That's just framing.
Well, let me ask you a really crazy question. Do you think that at some point that AI will become sentient?
Yes, but...
Stop the whisper and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You gotta stop talking. You're busting my balls. Sorry, man. Let me start it again. So, do you think that AI will become sentient?
Yes, but like when and how? So essentially, what is your definition of sentient? And also, it comes on to the point of what is its definition of sentient. So essentially, what is it being distilled on? So my easiest way to explain it, and I've spoken to directives of like big corporations on the same deal, is essentially as a parent, you can corrupt a kid very easily.
Okay.
You can make it Hitler or you can make it Gandhi. And why and how?
Because of the input.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the reward.
Yeah.
That's exactly what AI is. So I've built AI. I know exactly how they work. I can tell you exactly the way to... They do exactly what you tell them to do because you feed them reward. So it's a stick and a carrot.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you do the both. So they exactly do the same as a human. So I like these producers behind you. You beat them with a stick,
Yeah.
they'll listen.
I'm leaving that in now. I'm leaving that in. Yeah, totally, man. Well, I get that. So the way I sort of get my head around that is a sorting system that's feeding information in a concentrate because it's knowing more truth than false. And it's taking those more truths to process it quicker or to be more accurate.
Correct. It's not even accurate. It's more reward. So, like, the worst thing is that it doesn't understand. Like, so if I was say you're going to be like, okay, if I was going to say, tell me a story about a skateboarder, majority of the time it'll be a male, right? And it doesn't understand that because that's what it's been trained on. But if you train it differently, so as a kid, you say, what I was brought up on, males and females are equal, blah, 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 they can all do the same. Your like ideas are the same. That's exactly an AI. Like,
Yeah, wow.
let's not joke. And like we spoke about it, it's a large predictive text system that we don't understand the in-betweens, but we understand the output. So we understand what we put in, we understand the outcome, we don't understand the middle.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, well, what about emotional intelligence?
They're better than us.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't have an ego.
Well, what if but you would one could argue that having an ego is a part of a survival trait.
No.
If you are leading a force into battle, ego plays a lot into that. There's a lot to be said for the difference between crazy and brave.
I disagree with that because I think it's about people understanding what they believe in. So essentially, that you could false this ego. The ego is people believing in you over you believing in yourself. So your ego is yourself. So essentially, if I was Alexander the Great, he led to the best of the best. Why? I don't think that it was an ego. Like, it was an ego for him, but his followers believed in him.
Yeah, but I'd argue that the ego in that leader is what was the causality of that effect. So if you look at it as a system that has different compartmentalization to how it operates, because I understand what you say from a linear drawn from A to B. That makes total sense. But I would argue that the trajectory is a bit more jagged than that, and one is compartmentalized that feeds the energy of another.
So you're saying your self-presence is your ego.
Yeah, because part of
to
that
stand
is
in
right.
on a crowd and to believe in that, essentially, you are feeding your own ego.
Yeah. Believe, even if like I was saying to you before, like one of my mantras, right? When I get up because of dealing with trauma, I go believe, believe, believe.
Yeah.
And there's days that you don't believe, and then a big shout out to Anthony Hopkins, man. He's the dude I heard say this. Is like even act as though you believe if you don't believe, and then you will eventually believe. So there's this feed loop of what is how you feel about what's not right to being what's right to encompass what eventually is right. One could argue, well, you just go straight to that line, but there was a deviation along the way.
Well, you need that struggle to believe in yourself. Well, without the struggle, you don't believe. Like in society, what have we done all our
It's contrast. Yeah, that's the contrast. That's why I agree. I agree a long way with what you're saying, is because it's about that contrast. But I would say a part of that contrast is there's nuances in there that feed what that data set is, and that could be that not only ego but other attributes as well, even to the point of fear. Where I believe that most decisions that are made are either made out of fear and love. There's a saying that really irritates me. Is like
fight or flight.
Yeah, or freeze, flight, or fight, right? People will say, money makes the world go round, and I go, well, that's kind of true, but it's not the actual. It doesn't fully encompass and explain things.
No.
I would say the cooperation makes the world go round, and that cooperation is based on love and respect.
Correct.
And you could argue and go, well, there's elements of society that clearly don't act that way. But if you don't think that the world isn't made out of passion, where did 7 billion people come from? Maybe they didn't all come from passion, but the majority did.
There's always the other ends to the spectrum, right? And that's why I argue a lot, and especially that people like where we can't find the middle to this day. And that argues to me the point, like politically, scientifically, like everybody, especially with the vaccine.
Yeah, a good divider.
Correct, but nobody's ever had empathy. That's a problem. Like we're lacking empathy right now more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And that's the worst part is that like we don't have an understanding. Like, okay, good example. I've got a good friend that was a Trump fan, right? Absolutely Aussie. Moved over to America, through and through.
Move your chair a bit closer. There we go. Okay, yeah, we're back in. Yeah, Trump fan.
I have a friend who's a Trump fan, and it took me a little bit to question his reality. And I understood that I don't live in the town or country or the society he lives in. He lives in Texas, and I was like, how could you ever validate that person, right? And that was my mentality, and I realized that I don't live the lifestyle. I realized that I am the same person as Gandhi as I am Hitler. I'm made out of the same materials. I'm made out of the same thing. The only thing that I'm not is their environment and their DNA. Two things they're not in control of.
Yeah. What's the difference between Bundy and Mozart? You know,
Correct.
You know, both very crafty. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
is that a nice way to say it? Is that terrible? Shit,
No, that was the perfect way. Because
mention it in the
essentially,
comments and tell me how you feel.
You got to think of that they were the experts at their industry.
Yeah, man, they're both passionate. That's for sure.
Correct.
Um,
Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've spoken about that many times. You can be the best at what you do as long as passion is involved. Like, you will be the Hitler if that's your passion.
yeah, man.
You could be Mozart if that's your passion. But there is no...
Well, there's some that have the natural skill though, as well. There's some that are just tapped though. You know, there are some people that are tapped.
I'm sorry, no.
Everyone's a genius.
No. There is people that work harder than those people, and nobody gives them the credit.
Yeah, but there's some talent out there that just do crazy shit. Look at Isaac Newton, man.
Correct.
If you went to
Have
go
you
study
seen Tesla?
if you went to study calculus, right, it would take you 4 years.
Correct.
Newton wrote calculus in 9 months with a feather by firelight.
Do you know why?
'Cause he's a fucking genius.
No. Passion prior to that.
I don't
Do you know
he's
why?
a bit of savant,
He
savant
had-
kind of guy. He's a bit of an asshole.
Oh, no, exactly. Savant, arsehole, we can
Apple
all...
hit him on the head and he changed fucking ideas with it. You know, he's that much of
I
a prick.
agree. But in society right now, we deny that skill. That's one thing I can't stand.
Oh yeah, well, especially in Australia, man, we have this tall poppy syndrome.
Majorly.
Yeah,
It kills me.
We don't celebrate our heroes, man. Well, we do. We celebrate the heroes that are already pierced through.
False heroes that were narrated.
There is a lot of false heroes out there. Yeah.
So what essentially is what we're told up until to a point, and then we all come liberal, and then it's like, okay, now we've got to question everything, and now we question absolutely everything.
Yeah. Well, there are some heroes out there,
No, I agree that not everybody's right, but my mantra is 80-20. If they're 80% right, you can't question they're 20% wrong, because you know what? You look at the time, the era, where they were from. If I was that person, like, so my thing is if, like, have you read the Gully, I'm going to pronounce this wrong every time. Gully Gartigolo is the guy.
that one. Could you get arsehole?
Can we cut this out?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I can look it up for you if you want.
No, I'm having a dyslexic moment. Essentially, it's the
Why do they make that word so hard to spell? I don't fucking know.
Germans. Can't trust those Germans.
Sig fail.
Yeah. Jesus.
No,
Fail.
essentially, it was written by a prison guard of the I haven't had it in my mind, but no. Essentially, he was a prison guard of a prison camp in Germany.
Yeah, okay.
Of that situation, and essentially, it's just like I could be that person.
Anyone
I could be that.
Well, you look at it, man. Like even the German populace during that time, they were all convinced of it.
Correct.
If you look at
And considering the situation they were coming from, the First World War.
well, look at the conformity of COVID, man. Look at Australia, conformity of COVID. Do you know that heart attack? Not a heart attack. Let me rephrase that. Did you know that cardiac arrest? Let's get this clear, because like. Heart attack is something that you go, shit, my arm hurts, I've got chest pains, and then you go to hospital, they go, you're about to go into cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is when your heart is like out of rhythm and you're about to fucking die. In fact, you're borderline clinically dead, right? The rate of cardiac arrest in people under 35 has dramatically raised in the last 3 years. Not just like an abnormality of a little bump in the road, it's dramatically increased. One could say, I'm not saying conspiracy, I've probably just shadow banned us for this whole fucking episode. But if you think about it, is there a causality there? Probably there's a causality there.
100%, but you've got to think of, then you've got to, like, it's also personal. Like, so the situation was hyped. So we're
Still is.
all in
Totally
a hype.
backpedaling. I'm trying to get the ratings back up on the show because we're talking about AI, which is really fucking cool. But the problem is that we're in this space about what is reality and what AI can do if those are in charge of what is going on.
Well,
it's a big problem.
The best thing I can explain, essentially, that I've trying to develop an AI that you control, you own, that monitors that. So essentially, I've got a watch that
So it's like counter AI.
100%. So essentially, but you own it. So
Yeah.
it is you're in control. So essentially, because the best way to explain is I can control an AI that tells you that Coke is better than Pepsi,
Yeah.
and you'll believe it because you know what. 90% of or 80% of the information you feed it is right. That 20% you can be wrong, and they all bank on that being wrong. All social media.
Yeah.
I love Rogan. I love those guys. I even like Ben
disruptors.
Shapiro.
Total disruptors, man.
Correct.
Oh, yeah,
but
same as,
they're right 80% of the time, and they go, okay, I'm going to throw a freaking lefty, right? And do you know what? Sometimes some people catch it. Sometimes they don't. But essentially what it is that I can be right 80% of the time. I can spill shit. All right. But imagine an AI that can find 100% of the truth.
Yeah.
That looked after your self-interest, that looked after you. And do you know what? Its only job is to make sure that you are aligned with you.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the worst way and the best way.
Yeah.
It's the self-feedback loop, echoing down that chamber.
Yeah.
But you're going to get your response. But essentially, the way I've designed the AI is not that. It's essentially it takes majority of rule. And that's where I argue, and I have the worst personal... And I'm hoping you can help me here.
Yeah.
Is that imagine if you're Einstein? Imagine if you're like the person that was about to break the new scientific discovery.
Yeah. I'm Einstein with relativity.
But everybody questioned you. That's where I'm having problems with
Oh,
AI.
dude, that's very common. Like, there's one scientist that I always sympathize with or empathize with, more to the point. It was about the comets of tails because I'm into astronomy, right? I love photographing astro events and photographing planets. It's a whole bunch of fun. And there's this fellow that was talking about why comets have tails.
Yeah.
So the suggestion was that space is empty. So how does a comet have a tail?
Correct. Gas.
Something's stripping it off and it's going a direction. Something is stripping it off, right? Because it's outside the solar system, doesn't have a tail. Enters the solar system, has a tail. So there's something going on. So they would argue that sunlight was just purely responsible for this. He did the mathematical equations on this and found that that sunlight doesn't have the mass to do that effect on its own. There's something else acting in that space. It turns out it's gamma radiation. So they refer to it as solar corpuscular radiation, which is a really fancy word for solar, which is two, co being two, solar being solar, corpuscular is pulsating radiation, right? And his whole career, totally fucking shot down. Everyone said he was full of shit. He had no evidence to support it. Once NASA started launching satellites that were sensitive to such instruments that were sensitive to such measurements, they found that what he said was true. Yeah. But his entire career, 30 years of people telling him that he's fucking crazy, not getting published, but gets recognised after he dies. You know what I mean?
That's exactly where I'm finding the problem with.
I think about those people.
100%, and I look at those like Galileo, like the people that correct.
Oh, he paid some prices, man. He paid some prices. They put him on the rack, bro. Stars aren't round, right? And Earth is the center of the universe. You got it? Yeah, I got it. House arrest for the rest of your life, motherfucker, or the rack.
No, I see. That's it. Like, would I be the person that willing to put myself on the line for that?
It's a big one.
I know, and I sit there and like, luckily I live in society that I don't have to deal with that right now. Because right now I can tell you, like, right now we're about to be in the biggest changes of our lives.
Totally, we're at the cusp. Yeah, we're at the transition. Yeah,
we are where gas to electric came in. So like fuel combustion engines to electronics.
Yeah, cars, horses to cars, records to CDs. But this transition that you're talking about, I believe, is way faster than that.
Oh, without doubt, because it's going to be within the next 3 years. There's no doubt.
Look at social media. Look how it changed in 2007 to 2009. Dramatic change. I reckon what you're talking about is faster than that.
Without doubt, because it's more profitable.
Yeah.
Essentially, is that I can make people more efficient, without doubt, because I can take the most repetitive parts of your life out. So I spoke to the producer, Shuey, and he was telling me all of the paperwork he does. And essentially I said, how about if I could tell you, if you could talk to somebody who is smarter than you, that understands that, all the legalities, legalized, like understanding all of that, and compute it in like real time and give you the answer, would that make your job easier and make it obsolete?
Oh, dude, reports I write at work, ChatGTP.
Yeah.
And
if you're writing it yourself, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you're wasting time. Even the internal documents that are run for the business, the structure of it. Like, I'm not saying I've relied on it entirely.
No, because
I've taken the parameters of what I require.
Correct.
That is already the framework. All I've done is enhanced it.
No, it's enhanced you.
Yeah.
And that's where people forget. So
it has. You're right. That's an interesting. It's enhanced us.
You don't. It doesn't have your intelligence. You do. So the ability to learn. Trust me. So for ChatGPT to learn costs $20 million. Right now, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so dumb." Do you know why? They're giving you a less model. I already know that because essentially,
well, it still performs well for me, man. I tell you that.
Correct. That's all that matters.
It smashes it. Smashes what we do.
Okay. AI just needs to be more intelligent.
40 hours of work in 3 minutes. That's how far. People that are reluctant about this, right? Like I was reluctant about TikTok and shit. If you're reluctant about this, you're fucking crazy, man.
Correct.
Like it comes back to that predictive text idea. If you don't like AI, you don't like predictive text, man.
100%.
You're already doing it. And in fact, if you want to really look at impact on human civilization about AI, they've been running supercomputers and stock manipulation for fucking ages, man. The closer you are to the network in milliseconds will determine how much more money you can make as a stock trader with the right algorithm. They've been doing this for fucking decades, man.
Do you know, was it FXT? Sam Bankman-Fried. Banked his money on that.
Yeah.
He banked it all. Was that we could make more money in a different country, bring it to this country, and everybody understands that. But what it essentially is that imagine if we're on the same level playing field.
Well, that's the thing.
That's
right?
what AI is going to do.
Well, it's the first in, right? That's why I say it. It's the first in. If you're not getting in now, that means you're going to lack understanding. It's the same with the internet. If you're not with the internet when the internet was starting, you're outside the game. You got to get in the game. Like, yeah, and you could argue and say, "Oh, this is not going to be good for humanity." That's not going to stop the game.
No.
And if you're saying this is bad for humanity, that means you're not contributing to this thing that could be good for humanity.
Correct. The printing press, right? They all thought that was going to make us dumb. The same with TV. The same with YouTube.
Dude. Yeah, it's total Marshall McLuhan stuff, correct. Right? Like, you know, if you look at the Gutenberg press, man, really what was happening, the Catholic Church was not happy with everyone becoming
Somebody
literate.
Else can control.
Because the only person literate was in a village would have been a priest.
Correct.
They're the ones that are reading the Bible and putting their inflection of what that control mechanism is.
They played a narrative,
yeah,
right? And that's what it is in society. So imagine if it's a level playing field that I could understand. Like, so, okay, I've just written a white page on, I'm getting funding for my AI. And essentially what I've done is that I've written up a Philippine country. Country.
Sorry, it's in the Philippines.
Philippine.
I can't. Do you want me to edit it out? I can edit it out.
No, I'm doing.
Actually, can we have a pause for a tick?
You want to pause? No, we're almost at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost at the end.
But essentially, what it is that I've designed it to teach them. Like they know, it understands their culture and understands them. But what it's actually meant to do is to bring them up to a how do we say? Essentially, bring them up to the same intelligence at the same level without paying the same that we had to.
Yeah, the same pains of the journey.
Correct, because I'm not even talking about material. I'm talking about like white privilege, like this shit, like all that crap. Like Okay, I've had a great life.
It's interesting you say that, man. Because things I do outside of this podcast, right? Run film festivals, running projects for arts organisations. Whether from directing to EPing to just articulating plans. It's all about that, right? It's about accessibility because it's essentially it's accessibility, and you can lean. For me, it's funny because people go, it's this white dude that's doing these things. Well, if you knew more about me, you'd know that that's not entirely true. Like
I've had your own struggles, you've had your own issues.
Everyone has.
But imagine if we're at the same same playing field, right? So, okay.
But it was research that got me there, though. It's by reading, it's by researching, it's by watching tutorials. It's about going to tutorials. It's about interviewing people. Everything that I've accumulated.
It's because of you. So if you had somebody the same mentality, the same person, exact same situation, but didn't have the same go-get,
Oh, yeah, look, I agree with that. Yeah, the drive has to be there.
But you need to take respect for yourself on that. So it's like...
But I found it fascinating. How could one not want to know about science and know about... Like, for me, geology and astronomy are my fucking things, man. Like if I go and look at a rock face, I can look at it and go, whether it's igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic, whatever. I can look at it and I can take a little bit of information and tell you about how this landscape formed. And then I'll go, like, that's not enough. So then I'll go and research what's the age of that landscape and then put it into scale of when it was developed and go, oh, wow, these events happened along that way. And then I'll go back to that region and then I'll talk to them at nausea about how this region formed. They're like, there's 50% of people out there will go, Ross, tell me a story about this rock, right? The other 50% of people are like, just don't let him pick up a rock. He will never. Shut up. Save the stars, man. You know?
I'm going back to passion. It's what you are passionate about. The best thing about AI is it can relate to us. So essentially, you love rocks, so it can relate world things, world issues, world trauma in something that you can understand. So the way I've learnt from AI essentially is that I like this, and this is certain situation. Explain it to me so I can understand. And it does an amazing job. You'll go, okay, so if you're stating rock sediment to human existence, it will to be able to make that difference. Because
archaea to fucking conifers to ferns to hydrothermic vents to where we are now. You know, it's a great journey, man. It's an interesting story. The biggest mystery is the growth of the human brain. That's the one that they can't figure out, right? They got it all sorted out except for the growth of the human brain. But I find that stuff fucking fascinating.
But why?
I don't know.
I can't explain exactly.
It's in the ether. That's an ether question. I don't know why that is.
I can tell you right now. And I can tell you, I don't understand, but there'll be something genetic behind you that will be indented in your DNA, that will be indented in your childhood, so environment and DNA. It's told you.
It's interesting to say that, man. I'm a storyteller, right? I tell stories. And I've been pushing for...
what you do.
Yeah, I pushed the underdog for ages. And I recently found out I got first Australian heritage. I had no idea about that, and then it was suppressed in my family because of shame. They wanted me to be raised a white fella to have better advantage, to have white privilege.
Correct.
But then you go back through that lineage and you find, well, hey, I'm not Mediterranean. I'm first Australian. That's why I tan well. That's why I'm a little bit browner than others. It's just that's fine and cool. But what I found about that was I didn't find shame in that at all. I found, wow, this really sits into my narrative about what I'm doing.
You said it then. You said your narrative, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah, but the first storytellers were the first Australians, right? The ones that did a narrative arc. So Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Do you realise that they were the ones that carried on the heritage to the whole tribe?
Yeah.
They were the big guys, right?
Yeah, lyrical, man. They wax lyrical.
Exactly, but that was... Okay, if you told a shit story... Do you think the tribe would remember it?
Yeah, they'll get carried on.
No.
And the history of families are told this way.
Without a doubt.
This is where it gets crazy.
Uncle.
It gets crazier. Do you know the first feature film production company in the world, where it was?
Where?
In Australia. The first feature-length film, which is 1 hour, 20 minutes, the first feature-length film was Ned Kelly. and it was made in Australia. And then I used to have this philosophy about it's something about the trees, something about the rocks that makes people storytellers here. This is before I had this understanding of being a storyteller, you know. And then
Culture.
but being knowing my heritage, I always just thought I was the descendant of convicts, which is true. But
I agree with that.
not just the descendant of convicts. Then you think about it and go, well, that makes fucking sense, right? Like, of course, most of us have this kind of DNA in this country. But here we are in these spaces arguing about what story and narrative is. And I just find... There was one guy that put it really well for me, actually. His name's Paul Callahan. And he talks about the prodigal son returning. And if you look at the history of humans all the way through the continental drift era... Right, so you go back to Pangea. Pangea breaks up into Laurasia and Gondwana. Before that happened, people from the Australopithecus, Australopithecus, was that right? And you had Neanderthal and you had Homo sapien, right? So we had all of these guys that migrated to the northern hemisphere, but they originated in the southern hemisphere. But then they migrated to the northern hemisphere, and so did the continents. The environment changed them to white, changed their language.
Yep.
And in 1788, they got on a boat and returned home. If you look at the timeline of where people originated, it wasn't that. And it's an interesting way to think about it, because if you think about difference, there's no difference there when you think about the prodigal son returning. If you think about it in sense of, we all came from the same origin. We all come from the same stardust. We all come from the same place. Literally, we have the same point of origin.
Correct.
From human history, same point of origin.
But do people understand that? And that's what I was stating about, like, we're understanding, like growth, exponential growth. Like, so you're stating, okay, we were here for so long. And now, in the last 200 years... how much we've grown.
And we've come back together.
No, the worst thing is we're not coming back together. So it's like, for me, it's mental health. I've spoken about it earlier. It's that we've gone that we've gone for the last 60, 70, 100, whatever, 1,000 years of being this type. Tribal. Yeah, we're all tribal. We understand that. But now we've got social media. We've got all these other aspects that we don't know how to deal with.
Oh, I've got an interesting fact about this. This will blow your mind. All right, so Gutenberg Press, right?
Yep.
Books come out, we start sharing knowledge, religious and scientific knowledge, the Enlightenment, right?
Correct.
So we turn a page, open a book, turn a page. We read most of countries read left to right. Some read right to left. Don't get me wrong, but my point is that the book is open. We scan across the page, whether it's left or right. Before that, it was scrolls. Before it was scrolls.
Yep.
And tablets. So now we have tablets and we scroll. So we've actually reverted back prior to the Gutenberg Press. So we've rescinded.
Correct.
But using a newer technology. So we've actually gone back as the, and then what also relates to that is the circus. If you think about the Colosseum in the context of what that is in democracy, that's what we're dealing with now. Celebrating our chefs, celebrating our sportsmen. We're back to scrolling, right? So we've actually, in a really weird way, we've relegated as we've progressed.
But I call it distraction, right? So it's like, look at me, magicians are the perfect example, right? So it's like, look at this right arm, and boom.
Yeah.
So you can see it as politically hugely right now, where we're in this whole disinformation era, right? Mm-hmm. How do you trust the information? So every party is playing that, right?
It's hard to even find sources that are real.
Correct. And
to find authentic sources is becoming more challenging.
100%. And I can tell you right now that after this conversation, after this podcast, I can fake your voice. I need 30 seconds.
I think they're doing it. I think they're doing it in Virginia. I've been downloaded in the States a lot.
Oh,
but through web browsing, not through viewership through Spotify. I've actually found stats of me being I've been downloaded in Virginia and Washington in one day.
But enough about your fans only.
No. Seriously, heart attack. Like, it's a really eerie thing where all of your 130 podcasts get downloaded in one day by one computer.
That's me. So
That's crazy.
I've done
That's
that.
crazy.
So
It's happened a few times, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do this after the air, and I'll give you the AI. So essentially, what it is that I can give my AI and train it on you and the way you talk, the way you behave. On the, was it 100 and something podcast?
Yeah, 143 this one is.
143. So I can train that. And I've done it on Rogan. I've done it on...
I've seen a lot of good Rogan ones, actually.
Well,
Some are quite funny.
I do it on Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman is my favourite. Like, he's a podcaster. But what I do it for personal health. So it sounds bad.
It does, but I get it.
So it's like, no, I just train an AI, and it's not too difficult for me. It's like, okay, I give it the material. It's like, okay, you give it, like, it's a decent intelligence. As I say, is a decent intelligence. It's probably a university degree.
Yeah, I get you. I count things like that sometimes. You go, we were talking about making editors before. Like, I get an 8 hour. If I get 8 hours with someone, I go, I just gave you about $8,000 worth of units there.
Yeah.
In 8 hours.
Correct.
Because if you're a good instructor, it's not just that. If you not only if you're a good instructor, but if you have a good student. Like, if you have someone that's not...
your student will 10x you as an instructor. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Like, if you have someone disinterested, that's a different kettle of fish. If you have someone that's interested, that's inclined, you're already on the pathway. You're already moving along. All you got to do is trigger the points.
But the hardest thing about being a teacher is to actually explain it. So to be a teacher, you've got to understand it to explain it.
Human speak.
And that's the best thing about AI is they do it better than me. Trust me, my AI's handled my divorce. It has been perfect. Do you know why?
Big tip, kids. If you get divorced, get onto ChatGTP.
No. It has been brilliant because I've gone a list of everything that everything I didn't like about the situation. I went blur. But what I said is I want it in the context of we love our kids and it's for the best of them, and just words it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I can't argue with it because, you know what? It doesn't have personal feelings, doesn't have emotions, but it understands context and semantics. So it understands that.
It does do a good job at that. Hey, but man, look, I know I'm really close to the end of my batteries, and we've been here for about good 2 hours, I think. But look, Steph, it's been fucking fantastic having you on the show, and I'm talking it out, man, and I've learnt so much. And I've had a lot of fun, even though I've got crazy fucking producers.
You let them behind the scenes.
Jesus, you guys are hard to tame. But nonetheless, thank you so much for being on the show.
Appreciate it anytime, buddy.
Yeah, man, I'd love to have you back. It would be great. And guys, you are watching... Come on, dude. Let's go. No. There you go.
Had one job.
You had one job. You guys are watching the Pagey Train. You can go and check us out on Spotify. That's right, video on Spotify. But most of you guys probably over on YouTube. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe. And hey, for you avid listeners, you can go and check us out on iHeartRadio or Apple iTunes. Basically anywhere you can find podcasts. You guys have been watching the Pagey Train, and we'll see you next time. There we go. We got it done, man. That was great. That was a mad podcast. Thank you so much, man. That was great stuff.
I forgot I was doing a podcast, but...
I told you you'd forget. I told you. All right, kill the record.